Hi there, this is Solitude Ronan from Solitude Ronan Films, and welcome to another random review. Today's random review comes from the 90s. It's a film in black and white. It's a film about a man trying to protect Jews from the Nazis during World War II. Of course, it's Andrejz Wadja's Korczak. This was made in 1990. It's written by Agnieszka Holland. It's a director, obviously in her own right. Shot by Robbie Muller. He's done a lot of work with Jim Jarmusch. This is a later Wadja, but it's absolutely wonderful. And apparently, this is a film that inspired Spielberg to do Schindler's List. Even though they have a lot of similarities, including the fact that quite a lot of the cast are also in Schindler's List, which was made 3 years later. You might recognise this actor. Obviously there'll be lots of butcherings of Polish names, but Wojciech Przeiniak, he's in Zulaski's The Devil. He's also in Tin Drum, and he actually looks like the real doctor, Dr. Janusz. So this is based on a true story as well. It's not adults that the doctor tries to save, it's children. So he runs, or helps to run, an orphanage in Poland, in part of the city that is being turned into a ghetto by the Nazis. And he is trying to save the children. It's a very brutal film. This is a wonderful Polish Blu-ray. It is multi-region and it does have English subtitles. There's actually quite a few in the Polish greats in for this label. And they just have a red spine. There's no extra features on this, but having the film is quite wonderful. I will do a little spoiler at the end, just talking about the end of the film, but don't worry, I'll let you know far in advance so you know when to switch off if you haven't seen it. So it's kind of starts off in 1936. But as I said, there's a lot of crossover between this and Schindler's List as far as cast, but there's also crossover between this film and some Kieślowski actors. Zbigniew Zamachowski, the star of Three Colours White and Decalogue 10, is in the film. He was also in Schindler's List. Alexander Bardini from Decalogue 2, who plays the Doctor, and Decalogue 4, Andy's in White, Andy's in Kieślowski's No End. Wojciech Klata, who is Pavel in Decalogue 1, which I don't like to talk about, it's too emotional. He's also in Schindler's List. Olaf Lubazenko, who was in Decalogue 6 and Decalogue 10 and a short film about love. He's the lead character in a short film about love. Marzain Tribala, she was in White. Blind Chance in No End. Teresa Budzic, which obviously isn't her name, apologies. She was in Three Colours White. So there's lots of Kieślowski faces, and there's also, as I said, lots of people who are also in Schindler's List. Przeiniak, again, it's not his name, apologies. he does actually look like the real Doctor. It's just a wonderful film. He becomes kind of the voice of, well, tries to be the voice of reason to the occupying forces, and they kind of deal with him until they find out he's a Jew too. And they treat him fairly badly and beat him up and stuff. But the kids are kind of allowed to stay in the orphanage as long as they don't kind of leave the orphanage. And he decides to brick up the windows that actually face out into the street, so they're kind of as isolated as they can be, even although, you know, they have to go out for supplies and things like that. And obviously the situation becomes worse and worse as we get closer to 1942, when they leave the ghetto. Again, there's not much to kind of talk about as far as the plot is concerned. This is more a call for people to try and see it. I'm gonna have to try and watch more Wadja. I think I'm only up to about 4 of his films after having seen Ashes and Diamonds finally a little while ago. But this is wonderful again. It doesn't shy away from brutality. The actor who played Pavel, don't talk about Pavel in Decalogue 1, he gets put through the ringer again in this film. He's a bit of a tearaway, but he eventually finds his mother out in the world. You know, there's a wonderful moment where Korczak, which is the Doctor's kind of pen name, if you will, his pseudonym, he's just asking, you know, there's so many children just dropping dead in the streets, you know, can we even like find an old shop or something where we can, you know, put the bodies on shelves to actually give them a bit of dignity. It's quite a wonderful scene. And again, sadly, the world we live in, there's quite a lot of people who could be doing with watching films like this. But of course, they're the people who never watch films like this, which is a shame. They would probably laugh at a film like this, but there's obviously lots of truth to it, that we shouldn't treat each other like animals, and we certainly shouldn't treat children like that, even though I can't stand children, but even I, you know, find some of this a little bit too much. So as I said, shot by Robbie Muller, it is quite beautiful, wonderful, crisp, black and white. It's highly recommended. Again, I'm not going to go into all the details of the story. You're going to have to watch that for yourself. It's a brilliant central performance, as this character is just basically trying to do the right thing while everybody around him is definitely doing the wrong thing. So it's highly recommended. I mean, you can get it in DVD as well. This wasn't that expensive from Poland. It was on eBay. But I'd highly recommend it because it's a really good print. But the central performance is absolutely wonderful. So with that being said, I'll say go watch it, go try and pick it up, because it is a true story, just like Schindler's List, even though it's probably a little bit slightly closer to the truth than Schindler's List was. And I will just go into a little spoiler about the ending. But if you haven't seen the film, then obviously thanks very much for watching. And hopefully you'll join me again for more random reviews. But for those of you who have seen the film or will never see the films, they just want to know about the ending. So they eventually get put into the trains to go to, well, in this case, in 1942, the doctor and his children from the orphanage, they ended up going to Treblinka. So they go into the trains, and strangely enough, the trains go towards the camps. But the last carriage that they're in is kind of broken off from the rest of the carriages, and it comes to a halt next to a foggy meadow, and the door opens and the children come out and the doctor comes out and they run off into the fog, into the meadow, and it's a beautifully poetic moment. It's a moment that we're all rooting for, you know, that wonderful kind of Hollywood ending of somehow by factors, you know, the link of the carriage breaking, which causes the carriage to stop on its own while all the other ones go towards extermination. And just the way it's shot, it's very dreamlike, it's very, you know, as I say, poetic as the children disappear into the fog. But then Wadja's not that kind of director, so as soon as it kind of fades, you immediately come up with the pre-credit blurb of the doctor and his children died in the gas chambers of Treblinka in 1942. So Wadja gives you that little hope that, hey, maybe the doctor and his kids got away and were somehow saved, but that's simply not the truth. They were unfortunately exterminated in the gas chambers in Treblinka in 1942. So that's just an interesting way of doing the ending. Obviously, could have, you know, we don't see the camps and anything like that. It's really about the time in the ghetto and trying to fight with the Nazi authorities and try and survive for as long as possible. So we never see the camps, but we are given that slight hope that maybe they got away, but they didn't get away. And Wadja is quick to kind of burst that bubble of any idea of a Hollywood ending, because no, they all died in Treblinka. So again, not a happy ending, because unfortunately in World War II there weren't too many happy endings for people who went to the camps, unfortunately. But this is a wonderful film. It's a film that, again, certain people in power today should probably watch, but of course, as I said, they're the kind of people that never watch these sort of films, probably don't even know these films exist. So yeah, thanks very much for watching. It is another wonderful Wadja. As I said, I'm going to have to try and catch up with more of his work, because some of his, even his later ones like this, are rather damn good. So thanks very much for watching. Please let me know if you have seen Korczak, what you think of it, and as I said, hopefully you'll join me again for more random reviews. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying farewell